Hey, it's Callum Bose here. Today I'm going to run you through how to create a changelog against a record in your app, but that changelog is recorded in a text field rather than as connected database records, which is the way normally people would set it up. The advantage of doing it this way is you don't use up a bunch of your available Knack records in your plan just for a changelog. So we still get to record the same information, but all that information is just stored in a text field so we don't use up as many resources in our plan. If you find this video helpful, remember to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at EnlivenIT. You can also get in touch if you need help with your Knack app via my website enliven-it.com.au. I offer development, maintenance and coaching related to Knack apps or wider web development. So let's have a look at this in action. I have this page configured so that when the team member name changes, a log is added. When the bio changes, a different log is added, or when I click this button, a log is added. So I'm going to click the button, and you can see here that I've got button was clicked. If I don't change the team member name, I don't get that log, but if I do update it, so getting rid of the typo in Anakin Skywalker's name, then I do get my log created. And this log is stored in a text field. It's actually a bunch of fields to create that logic, but effectively it's just all stored against the one team member. So you can see here that we have our big log text here in one field rather than having to create connected records. Okay, so to set this up, we have to set up a few different fields to make this work, because unfortunately in Knack you can't just run a record rule when you submit a form to append some text to an existing text field's value. So we need to do some funkiness to kind of create that functionality. Kind of looks a bit complicated at first, but it's actually not that hard. So we're going to have a couple of paragraph text fields, a couple of text formulas, and a equation field. So let's start from the left-hand side here. This logs all except latest is just a text field that we update with record rules. I'll show you that soon, which stores the previous value of the log. So in this case, we've got, two things that have happened with different date stamps. Then we have another paragraph text field, which we'll update with record rules. And this stores the latest log, just the text without its date stamp. So for example, the name field was updated on this particular record. We have this equation field, which always gives you the current date time. For example, 1st of February, 9 a.m. And then we use a text formula to concatenate the two. So we have our date stamp and our text field value. Then we have one more field to ensure that we don't, if this field is blank, so there's no latest event that's happened, to ensure that we don't have like an empty timestamp with no event next to it. So if this field is empty, the latest text value, then this field will be empty. If it's not empty, then this field will take the value of the concatenated timestamp and latest log. This is just for the initial state when you first have no logs, to avoid you kind of getting an endless list of blank logs with just date stamps but no actually event. And the reason we need to do it with a conditional rule on a paragraph text field is text formulas don't let us run that sort of conditional logic. But effectively what all of this little block here does is creates this either a blank thing or a timestamp with the latest log. So then we concatenate as our final step the previous logs with our latest log to get our final log. So that all seems hugely complicated and it's not immediately obvious why we need that. But like I said, it's because you can't just, in a record rule when you submit a form in Knack, you can't just append a value to the end of existing text field. So it would be ideal if we could just say, on submit of this particular form, add this line of text to the value of the field, but we can't do that. So we have to do this kind of roundabout way of doing it. So what happens when we submit a form to create a new log is this. So we have our same setup. So let's say some event happens, like, for example, I click that button. So let's go have a look at that again. I click this button. I want a new log to be created. This button was clicked. The event happens. And the first thing we do is we run a record rule to copy the value of the final logs to the logs all except latest. So in that case, we would copy this value over to here. So that would include all three instead of just the two. Then we would use a record rule to append something to this field. For example, button was clicked. And then the logic flows as is. It'll get concatenated with the date time. It'll get combined with the previous three, and our final result will be 4 logs. So let's imagine that the previous value was just 2 things, and that was sitting here. So the event happens, the 2 values are copied to here. Then we add the new log, name field updated. It all flows through so that we end up with the 3. So it seems complicated, but once it's all set up, it's actually quite easy. So let's go have a look at how we actually implement that in the app. So we've got our fields set up like this. So we've got our current date time, which is just an equation using the current time. So we add an equation field, equation type date, date type hours, result type date, and we run this function current time, and that just outputs the current time, and we can format it in whatever country format that we want. And that means that every time something is updated in the app, it'll update itself to the latest time. Then we have our latest log text. So that's our newest log, just a plain old paragraph text. That's that one. Then we have the concatenation of current date time with our latest text. So that's just a text formula with concatenating those 2 values together with a semicolon. And really importantly, we also put this break here at the end. So that's a HTML code for making a new line, so that otherwise we're going to have all our logs squashed together. Then this is our paragraph text that becomes blank if there's no latest log. So if there's no latest log, instead of having a kind of a date string with no kind of event next to it, we just make it empty. Otherwise we take its correct value. So it's a paragraph text field, conditional rules. If the latest text field, so if this field is blank, is not blank, then we set it to the value of the timestamp field. So you can see if this isn't blank, then this field takes on the value of this field. So this field takes on the value of this field. And otherwise, which means the latest log is blank, it stays blank. And then we have our paragraph text field for storing the latest logs, which is just a simple text field that we'll update with record rules. And then we have our concatenation of all the logs. So the latest, all except latest plus the latest. And we just we run this trim function around it. So we wrap the whole thing in trim just to get rid of any extra white space that might be hanging around. So we got our all except latest field first, and then our blank or latest with timestamp. So like all except latest, and then this special field with all our formatting. So it combines into this. And that's our final text formula. You can see in our records here that current date time, log latest text, just like button was clicked. We concatenate that together. It's not blank, so this takes its value, the same as that one. This is our previous logs, and then we concatenate those all together into our final logs. I think we can't see all of them, but they're in there. Notice we've got this line break in between them as well, which we created when we concatenated these two together with the latest latest log with the timestamp. We also added that break there. Okay, and then when we do the things that we want to add logs for in the app, we just add record rules. So this is an action link, and it runs record rules. So when we want to add a log, we have to do two things. We update the all except latest paragraph text field, so this one, to the final value. So like we say, we're copying the final value concatenated with everything into this field, so it contains everything except for our new log, which we're about to add. So that's step one. And then step two, we update our latest log text with whatever action just happened. So in this case, button was clicked. So we update our latest log text, and then that all flows through to update our final logs. And so once again, we can see that here. We click the button, we get our new button was clicked log. So similar happens in the submit of these forms, record rules or record actions. If the name field has changed, we copy the value of the final to the all except latest field, so preserve our previous logs, and then we add a new log to the latest log, team member name updated, and then that's how that ends up getting added. And similar for bio, except in this case we run if bio has changed, we do those same actions. And so once again, if we don't change Anakin Skywalker's name, we won't get that log there. But if we do change Anakin Skywalker's name, then we get that log come through as well. So yeah, that is the pattern for adding logs to a text field rather than having to use connected records. Hope that is helpful, and post any questions that you have in the comments below the YouTube video.